CTV News at 5 with Hudson Mack.
Good evening, I'm Joe Perkins. Well, a woman was rushed to the Victoria General Hospital this afternoon with serious injuries after being struck by a van in a busy Victoria intersection. The woman was crossing the road at Cedar Hill and Hillside heading north when she was hit inside the crosswalk. Police say the woman was in the intersection when the light changed green. Officers are still trying to piece together what happened, but say the vision of the driver who hit her might have been obstructed by a large gravel truck.
Light changed. As you can see behind me, there's a large truck there. It may have obscured the vision of the vehicle that was coming in the #1 lane here. So we're looking at all the factors right now and judging on her injuries. Depending on what those are, we may be calling out the analyst team to just take a better look at this.
The driver of the van suffered no injuries. And shortly before the Hillside incident, 2 cyclists were struck by a car on Cook and Oliver. Witnesses say an elderly man was trying to turn into a parking lot when he hit the pair on the bikes, who went down like dominoes.
I mean, they were just ripping right through, doing their thing, and it seemed like the elderly gentleman didn't even really notice them. He just kind of turned to get into the parking lot, and actually they were on the ground, and he had pulled into his parking spot. He was oblivious.
One of the vehicles that was traveling southbound made a right-hand turn and may have cut off the 2 cyclists. We're still unsure right now as we're talking to witnesses still, but both of those cyclists were taken to Victoria General Hospital and are being treated for some minor injuries at this point.
Police say charges are pending against the 82-year-old driver. Construction crews are busy laying the groundwork in Victoria's Upper Harbour. Workers have begun repositioning fiber optic lines to make way for the new Johnson Street Bridge. The water under and around the Johnson Street Bridge is going to be a very busy place over the next 3 days. The city says 10 excavators will be at work relocating the TELUS fiber optic cables that connect the Vic West, Esquimalt, and the Navy base. With that much equipment, it's going to get crowded, so the city is taking a rare step, shutting down the navigational channel.
We will be affecting all marine traffic north of the bridge over the next 3 days. So any recreational or industrial users or any marine users that may be coming under the bridge and to the north will be impacted. And the city has been working closely with the Marine Group and the Harbour Master to ensure that people are advised of that impact.
The city says the next phase will involve the deconstruction of the rail portion of the bridge. That work is expected to begin at the end of January and finish up with the rail bridge removed by mid-February. The city says vehicle and cycling traffic will not be affected by the work. The Coho Ferry has a new familiar owner. The 52-year-old passenger and vehicle ferry that operates between Port Angeles and Victoria has been bought by the management team of Blackball Ferry Lines. Blackball has been operating the ferry for the past 52 years. In a statement released today, Blackball executives say they agreed to purchase the company from the Oregon State University Foundation. The company was bequeathed to the foundation by its former owner in 2004 as part of a $21 million gift to establish an endowment to the university's College of Veterinary Medicine. Terms of the deal were not released. The Coho can accommodate 1,000 passengers and 120 vehicles and injects more than $125 million into Victoria's economy every year. The company employs more than 120 people. Well, the issue of check cashing businesses in Esquimalt didn't cause the fireworks that were expected in council last night. The issue of allowing more check cashing businesses was on the council agenda, but it was tabled and postponed to a later date. The Esquimalt Council says it will gather more information before introducing any bylaws restricting additional cash lending businesses from starting up. An eagle-eyed elementary school teacher in Duncan is being credited with stopping what may have been an attempted abduction. Friday morning, the teacher was leading a group of 14 students on an outing at the Chesterfield Sports Complex when she noticed 2 students start to approach a vehicle. The man behind the wheel was dangling a skipping rope out the window, apparently trying to lure the girls over to him. The teacher confronted the man and then left with her students before calling police.
She noticed that 2 of the school-aged children, 8 years old, 2 girls were walking towards the vehicle at the time, and she approached the male, confronted him, basically advising him that what he was doing was very inappropriate. The RCMP subsequently attended the Chesterfield sports field, located the male who was still in the vehicle, and he was subsequently arrested.
Crown Counsel is now in the process of approving a peace bond against the man who was released on a number of conditions. He is not to have contact with anyone under the age of 16 and not to attend any place where people under the age of 16 are gathered or known to gather. A Comox Valley man accused of 8 counts of sexual interference with minors was in court today to face the charges against him. 60-year-old Wolfgang Bush was charged last year after accusations surfaced he was inappropriately touching children under the age of 16. The incidents were alleged to have occurred at the Comox Valley Aquatic Center. The defense claims the Crown has failed to prove its case, that none of the testimony entered during the trial can be supported by the pool's surveillance cameras. The man's lawyer put forward a motion to have the case dismissed.
I'll say this, it's a good thing that that surveillance video camera captured the events of the evening. They would come to him, they were drawn to him. He was playing with his own kids for years, and his niece and nephew that he would take there, and other kids would come over and join in the playing with him. And how the allegations of this night started, nobody knows. And while we're still before the courts and the matter hasn't been concluded, and obviously can't say too much, you can imagine the type of impact that this would have on anybody in the community, this type of allegation, which I'm suggesting now is completely unfounded.
A ban on publication prevents any details of the case from being released. The judge reserved his decision on the matter until at least Thursday. Well, one of the largest crowds in recent memory turned out for QUALICUM's council meeting last night. Locals are outraged over public quarreling between the mayor and some of his new councillors. Last week, the mayor accused councillors of meeting behind his back, just days after removing him as the community's representative on the NANAIMO Regional District Board. The crowd was divided, some supporting the mayor, others backing the councillors, but most agreed no matter who is right, the fight should not be happening in a public arena.
61% of the people voted for the mayor and council, and for the rest of the council to ignore them and say things that are not very pleasant for all of us to hear, I think is wrong.
I do believe that leadership requires integrity, and truth is part of integrity. And so the public deserves to know the truth. And the truth is, Mayor Westbrook knew beforehand that councillors would not be supporting his appointment to the RDM, yet he left that out there in the community for a number of weeks.
Both sides admit they got off to a rough start, but the mayor and council now agree they need to move forward and work as a team to serve the community.
Well, obviously nobody likes to be caught off guard. When I came into the office and found that 3 councillors in a meeting, it would have been nice to know that in advance, and that's the concern. So I think staff and all of council realizes, and myself included, that we could all have done better, and that in future everybody will be notified when there is a meeting of 3 or 4 or all of council, whatever the topic, wherever it's going to be.
After the very public quarrel that played out in the media, many are calling on QUALICUM Beach to follow the lead of larger cities and employ a communications manager to act as a liaison between council, city staff, the media, as well as the public. The possibility of a municipal strike has been averted in Nanaimo with a new 3-year collective agreement. The new deal has been ratified by both City Council and Local 401 and includes wage increases of 2% in each of the 3 years, as well as improvements to employee benefits and allowances. Nanaimo's mayor says she's pleased with the deal.
The agreement is in place. It's a 3-year agreement, and it'll end December 31st, 2013. And both with negotiators from QP 401 as well as the city of Nanaimo, I think the negotiations were difficult. Both sides showed a certain amount of flexibility, and we were able to achieve the contract. And I think mutual respect is so important at a time like this when you are involved in negotiations, and I think it just reflects the result reflects that, and I'm very, very pleased.
The deal covers approximately 750 municipal employees. The federal government is flushing $11 million into Port Alberni's wastewater treatment system. The money comes from the gas tax fund. MP James Lunney announced the funding this morning. It will be used to expand and upgrade Port Alberni's wastewater treatment system, which will in turn help sustain and restore the habitat in and around the Somas River and the Alberni Inlet.
One of the challenges, of course, with any community is its infrastructure, and the sewage treatment for our community needs to be stable throughout the oncoming decades so that we can develop and become a central hub for Vancouver Island.
So this kind of planning is extremely important, and the Gas Tax Fund is a program that the federal government came up with to transfer money back to municipalities to meet their infrastructure needs. It's now $2 billion a year. And Port Alberni just scooped $11.2 million for this particular project, which is almost 5% of the funding for British Columbia this year.
That's the Sumas River. The project will include the renovation of an old treatment lagoon that was formerly used by the Catalyst paper mill, and it will ensure the city's sewage treatment meets current and upcoming provincial standards.